political, something less socially unexcusable, something that's less recognizable. And that's what racism does. It changes the way people look, so people don't realize who they really are. And racism, I don't think, is ever going to go anywhere in this country. I think that with more people, younger people coming up that does not believe in racism, we're going to see a political change where the majority of voters just won't put up with Trump people anymore. You can be as racist as you want, but you won't get elected. Because Gen Z and millennials just won't put up with it anymore. They will lead a coup, take over, and get rid of those people in any way they choose, whether it's legal or not. The younger generations are not going to put up with the crap that the elderly people in this country perpetrate. We need to stop electing senior citizens. We need to start electing people that are young enough that can reach all generations. The most famous presidents in our country, they're either old or very young. I mean, the most famous president besides Abraham Lincoln is John F. Kennedy. He was young. We need to start electing people who are young enough that they're from a generation that didn't grow up with the rampant racism that the baby boomers grew up in. We need to start electing people who are between the age of 35 and 45. We need to start electing younger people. We need to start electing people that aren't in assisted care, or should be. And we need to stop electing people who die within 5 years of leaving the White House. Because electing someone younger, we might get a leader who actually cares about people. And if we can elect somebody who isn't a bigot, who doesn't hate women, who actually enjoys feminism and woke culture, we might actually have a decent 8 years. And no matter how bad Trump and his racist supporters, how bad it gets, within 8 years, they're going to vote for someone like that again because Republicans' memory doesn't exist. Anytime the Republicans don't win, they're just biding their time until they can wreak havoc again. And we just need to stop voting Republican, because that's where the majority of racism and all forms of 75% of U.S. violence can be found. They're far right. And it flows from our churches into our churches. And it's not just a Christian thing, but extremist forms of fundamentalist Christianity is one of the most racist institutions I have ever known. And I took a class in Mormonism and Jehovah's Witness. I think the only thing more racist than the Baptist Church is the Mormon Church. You go into the history of the founders of these denominations. Rampant racists. Human traffickers. Just awful, awful people. And anytime people are Bible-loving, God-fearing people, you're going to find, not all, but the more fundamentalist you go, the more white-loving, racist environments you're going to find. Because white privilege loves their God as much as they love slavery. And anyone who says, I want to return to a time that's before 2025, they don't understand the way the world works. There has never been a time in U.S. history where everyone has been treated equal. There is no great time in American history to go back to where everybody was treated with the dignity that white men take for granted. And there is so much racist hate in white man's religion. It is astounding. I grew up in an environment that erased anything that wasn't heterosexual. Just not there. Like it did not exist. There was nothing. And at the end of the day, they didn't want it to exist. Because if you have more than two genders, cis men aren't that special. If there's only two genders, the men will always win. Because they're physically stronger. If they can't control you, they will kill you. Or make you the villain. And that's why I always say, racism isn't powerful enough to enslave people anymore. So they villainize the group they're most afraid of. And this time, it's trans people. Or illegal aliens. But there's no such thing as illegal aliens. It's not a crime to be in this country and document it. Provided you haven't previously been deported. If it's the first time that you're being deported, it's not a crime. It's a civil violation. Well, not civil. It's a immigration violation. So no, they're not criminals for being here illegally. And if we lived in a perfect world, then sure, everyone should come legally. But we don't live in a perfect world. And when our presidents make it more impossible every year to be a legal citizen, what do you expect? Trump has made it so much harder to be a legal citizen because he doesn't want anyone who isn't white and cis in this country. Even though he's been married to immigrants. His own mother was an illegal immigrant. And a felon pedophile who was born by an illegal immigrant shouldn't be talking about groomers, squashing crime, or getting rid of illegal aliens. He's guilty of all three counts. And you don't have the moral high ground. If your mother was an illegal alien, you've sexually harassed women, and you've broken at least 30 plus felonies. I mean, you've broken the law. A felon president should not be stamping out crime. He doesn't have the moral high ground. And until the church does away with gender roles and the toxic misogyny of the worship of women's purity versus men's alpha domination, we are going to see the toxic stereotypes that are prevalent in our culture. And this alpha toxic masculinity, how many of these people are gay or some part of the spectrum that isn't straight, and they're too homophobic to admit it? Because people who scream loudest about the evils, well, I call the imagined evils of being non-straight, are probably the most likely to be non-straight. Because if you were really straight, you either have to be a hateful individual to hate non-straight people, or you're not straight. That's why they call it internalized homophobia. The people who scream the loudest about protecting the children aren't protecting your kids. They're looking for a way to sneak in through their bedroom window. And the church controls a lot of politics. That's why we have separation of church and state. And as long as the church supports, teaches, and basically creates an environment where you adhere to the sexist expectations or you go to hell, this isn't a good institution. That's why I don't like religion. Religion has never done anything good enough to erase the harm they've caused. I mean, if you equate what bad the church or any religion has done as negative 100, nothing they've ever done could ever get it back to at least a 1. The church has never done enough good to outweigh the evil that they've done. And no amount of any good impacts anything if you've done bad. You can be the most moral person in the world, but if you've hurt or killed somebody, nothing good you do can make up for the bad you've done. And the Catholic Church, Southern Baptist, United Methodist lead Christian denominations in CSA and SA statistics. These places should not be trusted. And anyone who puts their kid in those 3 denominations known for the highest child abuse, I would be calling CPS. Because smart people don't put their kids in places with the highest chance in religion of being hurt. And that's one thing I just can't stand about religion. Nothing good that they can ever do will ever repair, change, or be good enough to make up for the people who have died, whose lives have been ruined, how many people they've killed through the years.